Boris Johnson, the Home Secretary, announced that Afghan citizen resettlement scheme before this debate. The big question, though, is it enough? Does the UK need to do more to really do its bit in this crisis?
Well, the almost certain answer to that is no. We will need to do more. I mean, the Canadians have already committed to, I think, taking 25,000 Afghans pretty much straight away. I mean, not spread over 4 years. The truth is, we actually don't know how many there will be seeking safety. We have to look at everybody who's worked for us, whether as a contractor or directly. Obviously, we've already made progress on the question of interpreters, but others as well. We'll also have to look at people who are going to be politically oppressed for one reason or another, and maybe women. I mean, the speaker you had, the parliamentary speaker you had up just now, talking very eloquently about that. And we simply don't know how many will get out either. Bear in mind, if they're not allowed out by plane by the Afghan authorities, by the Taliban, then getting out across land is not going to be easy either, because they've got Pakistan, Iran, and a number of countries that are not going to be very helpful. So we are having to make decisions, I think, pretty fast, pretty much on the hoof. But what I think we can guarantee is that 5,000 in 1 year is not going to be anywhere near enough.
You say these decisions are being made on the hoof, and that's what's frustrating for people watching at home. And that frustration has been expressed in the debate today, that these plans are being made after the event. We have known for months that the US is withdrawing troops, that NATO troops will follow, that the UK will have no troop presence in Afghanistan. People could see this coming, perhaps not at such speed, but regardless of the speed, it happened, a plan wasn't in place. And that's another big question that surely has to be answered by the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary and the Home Secretary, that plans just weren't there.
Well, I think two things. I mean, firstly, there was some of it foreseen, because when I raised myself back in June the whole question of Afghan interpreters, and actually, to be fair to the government, I say sometimes I'm happy to be critical when I need to be, but to be fair to the government, between me asking my question on the order paper and between the Home Secretary answering it, they made a policy of actively trying to help people who have been interpreters for our armed forces and so on. But
that issue has been around for years.
But nevertheless, when I pressed, they moved, and that was a few months ago. But the problem, and part of the problem, is that nobody foresaw. I think even the most pessimistic, and I'm probably amongst those, nobody foresaw the sheer speed of collapse of the Afghan government. If somebody had come on your program a month ago and said, in a month's time, the Taliban will be in charge, you would have poo-pooed them. I mean, most people have thought they were wrong. That's what's happened. A large part of the responsibility for that, I'm afraid, is down to the two consecutive American presidents, the way they handled it. But nevertheless, we can't do anything about that now. The issue now is to get on top of it. I agree. It would have been better if we'd had more advanced plans laid. But remember, in the middle of the COVID crisis as well, other things distracting people, it would have been better. Now we have to move fast. What that says, we have to move fast. If Canada can move fast, if the Americans say they can take 30,000 now, they're going to need to take at least 3 times that amount, by the way. But if they can say that now, if the Canadians can move, then we're going to have to move a bit faster than 5,000 in 1 year.
Can we just talk about a timescale? Reference has been made to the Syrian refugee resettlement scheme, where the UK promised to take 20,000 refugees over 5 years. What kind of timescale are we looking at for the refugees of Afghanistan? Because for them, time is of the essence. The Taliban have been in control of the country officially probably since Sunday. We've seen the absolute chaos around the Kabul airport of people trying to get out. They are frightened of the Taliban. They will say they haven't got 5 years. They fear that the Taliban will be searching for them and hunting them down within the coming weeks and months.
I agree. And I think to compare it with the Syrian scheme is just irrelevant, frankly. The people who are going to come in 5 minutes, not 5 years. And our problem is going to be how we cope with the new Afghan authorities whilst we're trying to extract people from their grip. And that's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but we've got to do it. And it won't show up in some business school textbook. We have to use our brain and do it for ourselves.
So what's that going to look like? Because the practicalities of this situation are very difficult. Here on the programme yesterday afternoon, I spoke to a gentleman called Pen Farthing, a former serving soldier in Afghanistan who now runs an NGO in the country, an animal charity.
Oh, yeah.
And he spoke to us on the phone and he said, at the time, he couldn't find his wife and a heavily pregnant colleague who had gone to the airport, who couldn't even get into the airport, even though the advice from the British government, when they'd made contact with the embassy, was to get to the airport, to get one of those evacuation flights. They couldn't even get into the airport. So there's a practical element at the moment that the government need to sort out. And does that involve more troops going? What does that look like? Because that's going to have to be the first step, surely.
It may well do, and I understand that a British aircraft left this morning with almost no people on it because they couldn't get them through the barriers. Now, that's going to take some pretty heavy-duty administration too. So it may well mean more troops go out. It also may mean some pretty robust conversations with the new Afghan government, and we're going to have to do that. And find ways of putting pressure on. We're going to have to talk to our allies about it. This is a very, very difficult task we've got to do, but it either happens now or it doesn't happen. If we're still fretting about it in 6 months' time, we've probably failed. And they're going to be people who work for us directly. Obviously translators, but other people too, drivers and other people. They're going to be indirect people who work for contractors for us. They're going to be people who feel at risk because of politics. They're going to be women who worked in the open, as it were, and are now being sent home. There'll be a potentially vast number of people, and we have to get across those practical issues. We also need to talk to our allies very carefully to make sure that those who are not under pressure can help us out, and there may be some. So it's not an easy task. I agree with you, it would have been ideal if we planned it all out last year, but you would have had to have a degree of prescience in the middle of a COVID crisis to do that and get the resources for it. Our government, no government in the world really had that prescience. We've now got to move very fast to make up for it. Otherwise, the next time we have a foreign policy excursion of any sort, people are going to be very, very thoughtful indeed before they actually help our armed forces. So it's not just in their interest. It's not just a matter of I was going to say Christian charity, probably the wrong phrase, but charity. It's a matter of actually doing our duty to the people who helped us.